Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Mindhunter Season 1, Episode 9. Full spoilers for the episode. So it's a penultimate episode, and we have a new killer to interview. We also have a new case to deal with. And in terms of overall arcs, I would say we're kind of at the pinnacle of Holden's kind of not trip to the dark side, but like him doing things that everyone else is not comfortable with, and the repercussions that may come from that.
Yeah,
Some of which are brought up for the first time in this episode, some of which are results of what he did last episode. But either way, it feels like his behaviour is starting to come to a head. Uh,
pretty much. Yeah,
and
it's what you expect the end of the show to be now, or the season even.
yeah, and it's kind of funny how much like the killers, it's also escalated throughout the season. It's just been little things, and it's just little. So here, when they go to see this other killer, Speck, Richard Speck, who killed 8 nurses or 8 student nurses in one night in the 60s. Like, obviously, we'll talk about what he actually says in the scene, but afterwards, when Bill's talking to him about it, and he's like, "Hey, that excuse that you're just trying to get him to talk is starting to get old. Like it keeps getting worse and worse. The things he's doing to get a reaction are going higher and higher.
Yeah,
And obviously, this one, his language gets very extreme. But yeah, so we'll talk about. But I guess we'll talk about that first. We'll talk about the interview first.
I mean it's kind of the crux of the episode. Everything kind of spins out from it.
Yeah, for the most part. Well, actually, we'll briefly just mention the opening scene since it's kind of separate from everything else anyway. We have our killer again. He seems to be in the house of who he's about to
Yeah,
attack, and he's very restless. He's got his stocking over his head, waiting to pull it down, taking a drink.
these I swear they're getting shorter and shorter.
Oh, this is longer than a couple of them. The one where he's just had the stuff in the bed was definitely shorter than this.
Yeah. I think it feels short because it's like tension. It just does it, and it's like it feels like it's just getting shorter and shorter because it's building.
But the notable thing here, well, two notable things. One, I was like, "What are you doing, you idiot? You're drinking using one of their glasses. That's like DNA, man." Now he does wash it, to be fair, but still, it felt like a poor move on his part.
Yeah,
But the main thing, of course, is that he chickens out and leaves. He doesn't actually go through with it, at least seemingly. That was the impression I got.
it looks like it.
So he's not done it this time. But hey, we're getting to the finale next. I'm fairly certain that in the finale he's going to do something. He has to.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. He does the kill there, and that's the season 2 plot.
If we get blueballed on him doing something, I will not be happy.
No, you have to
Yeah,
call the show out on that one.
he has to do something. We don't even have to see all of it. We just have to, he,
You have to know that something has come of all these side flashes.
yes, flashbacks,
I wanted
flash
to call them
forwards,
flashbacks, but they're not really, are
side
they?
flashes. Well, it depends. Like, is this because it's connected to the first case at the start of the season? So is this all building up to that first case? In which case, it is flashbacks.
True. It feels more like, I don't know.
Like it's going on as we're progressing. Yeah.
Yeah, but maybe that's just because I'm seeing it every episode and it hasn't explicitly said it's a flashback.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, it tells you every single time in giant text where it is,
Yeah,
just not when it is.
yeah, exactly.
So they go see Richard Speck, and Holden's almost a little starstruck. He's nervous, grin, because like he read about this killer in the paper when he was young. This was, as Bill puts it, it was his first crush. There's even a little joke at the end of the scene where he's like just don't ask for his autograph, and you're like, would that be inappropriate? And you can tell he's joking, like he's cracking a little joke just to
But
annoy
Bill's
Bill.
like, yes, it bloody would be.
Yeah, so they go on, and right away they enter some trouble. It's actually a really unique prison, I thought, because they have this little like circular turntable.
Revolving door.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's not just like the bars around them are revolving; it's them that are revolving, like in the
yeah,
middle, round to the other side, and then they're brought through the general population of the prison, and they say, "Oh wait, but we said no, not to do this because this will, everyone will know he's going to talk to us, and it'll maybe have reprisals." And the guard is like, "Yeah, but we're just going to make it look like we're tossing his cell, and that's normal, that's every day, so it doesn't look suspicious." But of course, you kind of get the impression that Bill is not happy about this.
not at all.
They
Yeah,
planned this out. They thought this through. They had a set, series of events that would take place that would ensure that he would have his just kind of privacy from the rest of the prisoners, so that there would be no, retributions or anything like that.
yeah. So they could talk freely.
Yeah. But Spec, again, very different to every other one we've interviewed so far. Although he did not, I don't think he ever actually pointed at a tape recorder, so that
He
streak is
didn't.
broke.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I was like, he's different from all of them in that sense.
Well, that's the thing. He actually says, "Don't lump me in with your other people. They're crazy." And I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? You didn't notice the tape recorder, so I'm inclined to believe you in some capacity, despite the fact that you
he,
did murder and kill
he
people.
might be onto something.
Yeah, but of course he's very different. This is the most aggressive we've had out of any of them. He is because we thought the last guy was kind of
Confrontational, we said.
confrontational, whereas this guy is just like ask a question, then he's like, "F you, go F yourself." Like
Yeah.
F your mother, like he's just like spouting full language. He's arguing with them at every single sentence. It doesn't matter what it is, he just does. And of course, the big thing here is that they try and talk to him about his crime. Did you plan to kill? Were you just planning a robbery? And so on and so forth. And he ended up, and what recently happened is he killed 8 people in one night. There was one survivor. There was a 9th person in the house that was hiding. She survived, but the other 8 died. He raped one of them, but not the other 7. And they talk about, why just one? And he's like, oh, I could have raped all of them if I wanted to. I could have easily had them all.
Yeah, I mean they're under the impression that he raped all of them. I think that was kind of the story was that they'd all been raped by the sound of it.
Yeah, people just assumed that. That was kind of
Yeah,
the
I
sensational
mean he talks
side
about
of it.
the I think it was the detective that kind of got the story and was like, no, we kind of blew it up out of proportion a bit.
Yeah, yeah. But so they talk about this, and they're trying to like ask him questions about it, and he's not opening up. He's not talking, and Holden gets a bit unconventional, shall we say?
That's one way of putting it.
He decides to speak, as he puts it later, in his language, and basically what he does is he gets very foul mouthed, and he basically cracks a little joke about, oh, you killed 8 women. That's kind of unfair to the rest of us. And the exact phrase, of course, is he refers to them as 8 rape and then C-bomb. And honestly, the word rape on its own is almost like, I feel like if you put the word rape in front of woman, girl, pick your word. I
Yeah.
feel like that already sounds really insulting because it's they're just for plucking. That's all they're
Yeah.
for, right? It diminishes them so much on its own, and then you drop the C-bomb after. It's like, okay, but Bill's reaction as this is going on, like he's just like, what did he just say?
Like what
And
the
he's
hell's
just-
going on here now?
Yeah, and it does get results. So this is the weird thing. As much as like we feel he's crossed the line, Bill definitely feels like he's crossed the line. It does get him talking. It does get him talk. Like, it
It does.
converses.
There's no denying that in some regard it works.
Yeah. But of course, the argument later on is, though, is it just a shortcut? Like, would we get there eventually anyway through?
Yeah, they talk about how, it's like it took him like 3 minutes to get to that. He didn't even try and do it any other way. He just went straight to it. And it's like maybe okay, this is fine if it's a last resort, but not as your opening gambit.
Yeah. And so they came out and, Bill's immediately just like, freaking out at him. Like, what the hell was that? This and that. And it's when they're on the plane back, he just sort of casually leans over and is like, and I loved it. And on the plane on the way back, they're on opposite sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
Just subtle imagery, just kind of like they're both the different sides of the argument. Because every other time I've seen them, I'm pretty sure they've been on the same side, they've been on the same seat.
It has, but it plays back to that one time where they were on the same side, but there was the guy that was sat between them, and he kind of forced his way in there, kind of foreshadowed this divide.
Yeah, I don't think we ever actually spoke about that. That was a really funny scene.
It was.
When
I
that
think
popped
I
up,
think I
'cause-
meant to speak about it because obviously it was funny, but there was so much else in that episode.
Because that guy argued, he's like, no, this is the seat I was assigned to. I need to sit in the middle. So they just basically make his life hell by like sharing crime scene photos and talking about
And
loaves.
lingering the pictures just in front of him. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, it's okay, I can move. We can switch seats. Like, oh no, I like the leg room now.
Yeah.
That was a really funny scene. But I just like that. It's a very simple visual metaphor, but it's there.
Yeah.
But he's like, hey, maybe you should lose that tape, or maybe garble that.
At least the first bit.
Yeah, garble the first few minutes of it. And he's kind of like insistent he won't, and Bill's like, hey, it's not just me, I'm thinking about others. And he's like, what, you think Wendy? Like, Wendy's going to have a problem with this? And obviously the conversation gets to him because they go back and Greg's typing it up. He's just taking down the script. And he looks at the finished script and he's looking at it and he's like, hey, Greg, I mean, some of this was important, but maybe leave it out of the record, kind of thing. And and to be fair, Greg gets it immediately. He's like, you see him typing it again, and he just puts in audio, like
Yeah,
corrupted or whatever.
distorted,
Yeah,
could not make out.
could not make out. Yeah, there's a glitch in the tape, kind of thing. And it's like, okay, fine. And I wasn't really sure if things were going to go further with this specifically, because I was like, well, I mean, this could just be seeding something that's going to happen later, rather than this itself is going to blow up and out of proportion.
Yeah, just the idea that he's willing to cover things up is kind of big enough on its own.
Yeah, but of course it spirals from here in this episode, because later on we get Speck put in a civil rights complaint because he got jumped by other inmates, and obviously the thing is that the reason why he got jumped is actually not our agent's fault. It's not Bill and Holden's fault, because they go to this meeting. This is the I can't remember what the acronym was for this.
Basically, internal affairs.
Yeah, it's internal affairs for the FBI, basically. But they come in and they're like very formal. They have a tape recorder themselves, which I thought was funny. It was a really nice sort of like callback to the rest of the season that now they're being interviewed with a tape recorder. Yeah. And they're asking about, and like what they say is true. They made plans. The deputy warden decided to alter them for his own reasons, and that's what's created this problem. And they bring up the interview, and it's like, hey, okay, there's a transcript, and there's a transcript, but they've left out the tape, and they said, okay, don't bring it. And it was Holden's choice to do that. He told Greg not to bring the tape, the transcript.
Yeah, and as soon as he does it, you see Wendy look over and go, he's hiding something.
Yeah, it's actually during this meeting that Wendy goes and digs into the desk and listens to the tape herself. But during the interview, like, and he brings it up. He's like, "Oh, I had to use an aggressive technique," and he sort of describes it without actually, giving up the language that he used. And what I love this scene because at the end of it, like, they're very formal, they're very serious, and they give them shit about the tape being erased because Greg just on the spot comes up with this reason. He's like, "Oh, we record over the tapes once we've transcribed them. We don't keep using them." He's like, "Hey, you shouldn't do that from now on." And I think the budget you're getting from your funding can cover some archive tapes. And he's like, okay, sure. But it's the moment they stop the recording, the moment they stop, they just go, "Hey, this pick's a character, yeah," and they'll start laughing, like they're shaking everyone's hands. It's like,
Speck, what a prick.
Yeah, it's basically this. Like they said, it was just a formality, and this is like, no, it was like these people. As soon as they finished the interview, it's like, yeah, this guy's an asshole. Yeah, we're fine.
Yeah, we don't give a shit. We just had to do this.
Yeah, we had to go by the book.
We're done now.
Yeah, that was kind of the attitude. But they go downstairs, they walk in, and Shepard's there with Wendy, and they're both just, it's like, the parents when you come home. Because it was funny, earlier on, like, Shepard told her about this interview first, and this investigation, and she's like, "I don't want to be their boss, because I'm not their boss. Like, I'm here to work with them, but I'm not." He's like, I'm the boss, you're just a messenger. But when they walk in here, it kind of feels like, no, this is the parents, and they're upset. Yeah. And I love how Bill's just like, "Nope, Holden, this is your mess. You take it. I'm going to the office."
I'm leaving you on this one.
Which, by the way, we should mention, Bill has his own little office. He took a little room.
Yeah.
So
it's cool.
Yeah. Again, maybe it's just a further symbolic thing of him separating himself a little bit, because he did go in the interview, of course. He couldn't go to the last one. He decided he was too much, but he is still going, because we speculated that maybe it would take some time before he went back, but he seems to still be doing it. But just this idea that he's separating himself a little bit and he's like got his own little space.
And I think it's also in the same way that it was for Wendy. It's more just this is routine. This is, if he can make it routine, he doesn't have to linger on it as much in his own mind at home. He has like an actual dedicated workspace, so he doesn't have to take it home as much.
Yeah, I can see that. So they bring this up and they have the big fight. And like, I don't know where to start. And he's like, "Why don't we start at 8 bright? See you next Tuesdays." And he's like, "Yeah, let's start there." And they repeat it like multiple times. Like both him and Wendy like say it. And he's and Holden kind of sticks to his guns. He's like, "Well, what I said didn't need to be said. It got a response." And he's like, "Oh, it was left out because it was maybe sensitive for some people." And Wendy's like, "Oh, you mean me? Like because I'm a woman, like I couldn't hear that language. That's kind of what you're implicating. But you lied. You specifically redacted something." Greg gets out of trouble because he almost says Holden made me do it, and Shepard's about to chew his head off for it, which was kind of glorious.
Yep.
And the debate basically comes, what do we do? Because we've lied to an investigation into the Bureau, but the only people who know about it are the ones in this room. We can make this disappear right now. And Wendy's like, "No, like this could harm all the research could be harmed if we're caught in a lie later. Like everything could be like the credibility could go out the window."
The problem with that is, of course, they've already said the lie. It's already on the record.
Yeah, she thinks it's not too late. And Shepard basically disagrees and says, "Well, No, because like it's easy for you because you're just a researcher, but this will reflect badly on the FBI. It'll reflect badly on this department because of this. And Bill like jumps out. He like, comes back out of his office like, "Hey," and I like this because this was Bill not sticking up for Holden per se, but kind of putting out the fire. I think that's even the phrase he uses. We can kill this fire right now. Just destroy the tape. That's it. It's done, and we never have to speak of it again.
Yeah. He points out how they don't give a shit. They're not going to look into this any further. It's just if you get rid of the tape, problem solved.
And he's right, but the thing is, so Shepard's like, okay, fine, like this is the first time I've ever had to hide something. This is the first time I've ever had to knowingly withhold information, and he's pissed about it. But now we'll protect this operation, this research, this unit. We're going to protect that, and get rid of the tape. That's fine. But he's pissed at Holden, and I particularly love the line because we've been talking all season about how Holden's maybe a little bit more like them, and even what's his face, Spec says that in this episode. He's like, "Oh, you're crazy." Of course, when they start talking about his suicide, he throws his little bird in the fan. I knew something was going to happen to that bird.
Yeah.
I was expecting him to squeeze it, but he threw it into the fan.
Yeah, me too. Just a little head pop.
This was funnier though. I'm not going to lie.
It was.
It was a bit funnier. I do love that when he mentioned that he fed the bird with an eye drop. Holden's like, "Oh," and then Bill's like, "Are you serious?"
Do you know what I think was particularly amusing about that? I think it was just last episode.
Yeah,
Holden was reprimanding Greg for doing that exact thing with the principal.
Yes, but this is a guy who killed 8 women who's convicted of the crime, and he's like, "Oh."
Yeah. So it's way funnier.
It actually is way funnier, but what I love is, so I mentioned that Bill, again, not quite sticking up for Holden, but
just doing what he thinks he has to.
Clearing up his mess. It's kind of like supporting the idea that, we can just hide this and move on. We can be fine with this. But as soon as Shepard looks sort of, okay, you're going to set up some guidelines, or you're going to adhere these guidelines, and it's the line I was getting to actually, he says, next time I listen to one of these tapes, I want to be able to tell the difference between my agent and like the low-life criminal who you're interviewing. And as soon as he leaves, Wendy goes in her office and shuts the door, and then Bill gives him a shady look and shuts his door. So it's like, Bill came out and put out the fire. Bill kind of stuck up for him in like a sort of general sense, but he's like, no, you still screwed up. You did mess up. You have to accept.
I think for Bill, it was like a greater good thing. He's like, look, I'm going to do this because this is bad on all of us. Now we've lied to that, but Holden was wrong.
I think. I'd go one step further. I mean, I think that is there, but I'd go one step further and maybe suggest that it's almost like when a parent has to lie for their kid, even though they know their kid's in the wrong, but they have to like go along with it and save their face. No,
I'm with you.
That's what I feel like. Bill's kind of a bigger brother character, and he's like, I'm going to protect him even though I know he's a little shit and he's in the wrong. And after you leave, I'm going to give him shit for it, and he's going to know he did wrong. But in front of you, I'm going to stick up for him because I feel responsible.
Yeah, and it kind of comes back to what we were talking about last episode with the private and public personas, where the idea that it's acceptable for him to do it in public, in private, but you can't do that in a public environment.
Yeah, so it's and obviously we've got some follow up on that. Although before we get to the other stuff, I want to talk about the conversation when they're discussing the results of this. Before they know the language that was used, and they're just in the, they've got a little meeting room actually now with like stuff on the walls and stuff, whatever. But
with stuff on the walls,
it was weird. It was like tables of things with like symbols on it. I think it was like psychology, like ideas or things.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah, like they have like there's certain people in columns and things like that for behavior. But it was all over the walls though, so I really noticed it because it was like they'd used the entire like room for it. But so they're talking about about Spec, and they're talking about and Bill again thinks we've got nothing useful, and like no, we did get something useful. We see that he why rape one and not the others, because he wanted to feel that he could, and he even kind of like emphasizes that when he said I could have done it, like he wanted to feel powerful again. It's just coming back to this idea of power and a certain power, and it's even the idea that he tattooed himself that he's I can't remember what the exact phrase was, but it was basically that he was a badass,
bad as hell, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It was born to raise hell, I think it was.
Oh, was it? Yeah.
And so he wants to be a badass. He wants to, and as soon as you questioned him about the suicide, he lied and said it was a bar fight. Bill, Holden's even like, it's kind of coincidental that the guy cut both wrists, and he's like, yeah, I beat him up for that.
Yeah, massive coincidence.
And then it's when they question the suicide again that he then kills the bird again to kind of like, no, you're making me feel a lot small.
It's a off topic.
Yes. So
Yeah.
So he kills the bird.
That's what you do, right, in that scenario. I'm uncomfortable with this. I'm going to kill this bird.
Yeah. That's what you do.
That's normal.
So, anyway, so what this scene actually turned into the conversation we've been waiting for all season, which was the birth of the phrase, the birth of the term serial killer.
I like that they were all involved.
Yeah, I kind of liked that I knew it was getting there. I'm like, oh, okay, they're starting to talk about it, like, because they're talking about how this isn't the same as the, they've been calling them, sequence killers. Like, this isn't the same as that, because what they're, I mean, again, they've not got this term yet, but what they're talking about with Speck is a mass murderer. That's what they're talking about, but they never call him that yet.
And they're talking about, well, it's not a sequence because it was all at once. It wasn't one after the other. It wasn't spread out in a sequence.
Yeah, it was just a lot of people at one time. And then he's like, and sequence doesn't sound right for the other one. It sounds too, mathematical. It's not kind of like that. And then it's like, Holden's like, it's a series of killings. Serial murder? And Bill's like, serial killer. And I like that the scene ends with Wendy walking out saying, oh yeah, we'll try that, see if it sticks. I'm like, that sticks.
Yeah.
It's stuck.
That's going to stick.
That's the term, yep. That was just funny because we've been waiting for that all season. I was like, yeah, we got there. We got serial killer.
And it was one of those, obviously it was in the trailer, so we knew it was coming.
Yeah, I didn't remember it from the trailer, to be fair, but I still knew it was coming.
No, I remember the moment where, in the trade, it's where Holden says, oh, we're dealing with serial killers, and Shepard's like, serial killers? And he's like, yeah, it's new terminology. Okay, yeah. That was in the trailer.
I like that annoys him, like, what is this new term? Why are you throwing fancy words at me, serial killer?
It's another example of Holden not speaking to his audience correctly, because Shepard doesn't know this term. He's just that's been made up earlier that day. They haven't told him about it, and he uses it in casual conversation anyway.
Yes, again, it's another example of him in the scene. He is being told off. He's in trouble for what he's done. So in a way to almost feel powerful again, he deliberately uses a phrase that he doesn't understand to feel smarter. No,
you're right. Yeah. It's because he has to explain it. It's like, no, I know what this is and you don't.
Yeah. And even just in the sense of the argument, it's almost like he's trying to prove the point that I know better than you in this situation. Yeah, that's what it kind of feels like. And obviously Holden needs to learn that he can't just do what he wants. Which leads nicely to talking about a certain scene. So he ends up with Debbie. Obviously they're in a bad place after the last episode. But he's walking past the laundrette. And he sees her in there, and he just kind of stares for a bit, and then he goes in and talks to her, and it seems like they've kind of made up. I did kind of like this the not so subtle metaphor of she's washing her clothes. That's where he meets her, and it's like, oh, they're washing the relationship. They're coming out new and shiny. But she's actually at his place, which is actually something we've not seen before. I don't think.
No, I don't recall it.
I don't think I guess it was his place in the first episode, so I guess we have seen it once, but
not since the relationship's actually been going. Yeah. At that point, it was basically a one night stand.
Yeah. Oh no, it wasn't even her. I'm talking about, it was just him. Remember in the first episode?
Oh right, okay.
He came home and threw his coat in the chair and he missed.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only time I think we've actually even seen his apartment.
Yeah, it might be.
But hey, so they're there, and they get into a little bit of debate because he refers to her college work as stuff, because she's still working late into her 20s because she's getting a doctorate, and she mentions it'll be 30 before she actually finishes, because that's just how long it takes to do all this. And she's not like sure if she's having doubts, do I actually want to go through it for that long, is it maybe time to check out with what I've got so far, and pursue a career. And he refers it to as stuff, and she kind of pulls him up on it. Oh, it's just stuff, it's just Debbie stuff. When you're talking about your work and it's all these serial killers, I need to be interested. But with me, it's just stuff, and it's just it's just what I'm doing. So, and I think he is kind of self-indulgent in that weird way, where he is just kind of caring about his own thing.
He is, yeah. I don't think it's too bad here because he kind of makes himself all right, where he pulls up some examples. Like he gets it slightly wrong, but for someone who doesn't study that, he gets just enough to go, no, I've been listening.
Yeah, I think obviously the big point is that she says, yeah, but see, not everyone finds what they're right for right away. You're kind of lucky, Holden, in that you've just kind of stumbled into this weird niche that you're perfect for. Whereas I'm still trying to find what I actually like and what I'm good at. Like, yeah, sure, I'm interested in this as a broad subject, but what am I actually aiming for? What am I actually doing with it?
Yeah.
And she's not really sure. But that's actually like almost the irrelevant part of the scene, because then the real interesting stuff happens. Someone's at his building, some woman's at his building, and it turns out it's the wife of the principal from the last episode that he got fired for tickling the kiddies. And he goes outside to like greet her, and when I say outside, I just mean in the hallway, not like outside the building. Just like, and she comes out of the elevator, and she just stays back at the elevator. She doesn't even let the elevator door shut.
She's wanting a quick escape almost. If she needs it, she wants to know that way out is there. Because
she presses it a couple of times to keep it open, the button.
Yeah.
And Holden's like staying close to his door as well. It's a big gap between them. They're talking over a ridiculous distance.
Yeah, they really are.
And she's like, we know what gives you the right to do what you did. Like, you interfered. You got my husband fired. He can't get a job now. He can't work with kids. Everyone's calling him a paedophile. They've spray painted kiddie on our driveway, and like, it sounds like he has ruined this family's life. Not just the husband, but the whole family are like feeling the effects of it. And she's like, you know what gives you the right to do this? Like, you've done this to us. And it's really conflicting, because she's like, okay, right, he did cross a line. He deserves to get consequences for it and feel that he did something wrong. Which is maybe telling at the end of the scene when Debbie asks, because Debbie at one point invites her in, and you can just feel Holden. It's like, he almost gives her a Bill look, like,
don't you do that?
Yeah, no, stop it. Don't invite her in.
Yeah.
But she when Debbie asks, "Oh, what did you do?" He's like, "Nothing," and he just sort of goes in. And that's the end of the scene. It's like, I don't know if he's learned his lesson here, perhaps.
Yeah. The problem is, he still thinks he's in the right for what he did, and he probably is. To
a point, yeah. I think
to
a point we actually agree with them, because we agree that what the guy was doing was wrong, and the fact that parents were uncomfortable, it says he is wrong and he should have stopped doing it. And that's what we said last episode. The last review, we said, oh, what should have happened is the board should have said, no, this is now against the rules. If you do it again, we will fire you. But he now knows that's the consequence, and he can make his choice accordingly. If he does it at that point, he knows he's done wrong because they've told him it's wrong.
Yeah, but now they're talking about how he can't get a job anywhere in the state. Like, no one will hire him.
Yeah, he's been treated like he's been blacklisted, by the school board, and it's he can't even get like a regular teaching job. Never mind being a principal. So it's just this scene and the way it's played, and there's a big long gap. It's filmed beautifully. It's very dark. It's like him confronting his mistake and not accepting it. He's not getting close, so he's not willing to actually look it in the eye, or her in the eye specifically.
Yeah, he keeps her in the dark. He doesn't want to see her. He doesn't want to have to deal with it.
Yeah, and she also doesn't want to even get close to him anyway. And she even says to Debbie as she's leaving, she mentions that they're married, and Debbie feels the need to point out that they're not married. Like, she didn't have to. Big deal if this random woman thinks you're married.
Yeah. And she's like, well, get out what you can.
Yeah. So no, I think. I don't know if, obviously we've been talking about Holden's character a lot throughout the season, and whether he is disturbed, whether he has, sure, he can sympathise with these people, but I don't know if we necessarily seen him going down this darker path. And it's not even dark relatively speaking. It's not like he's killing people now. It's not like that.
Just he's just bending the rules a touch when it suits him. But that's the start, isn't it?
Yeah. Again, it's escalation. Like, it started off with just, pushing boundaries a little bit, and now he's saying these things in interviews, and he's withholding information to get away with what he's doing. It's kind of like the Killers, in that it's building an escalation. It makes him feel powerful because he thinks he's important. At one point, even when Wendy's disputing the stuff with him, he says, "I started this." He's like, "This was me that started this."
It's all down to how this is his project. It's all on him.
Yeah, it's his plan. It's him. So he's a flawed character, and I wonder if he'll realise that in the finale. If he'll if something big enough will happen that he'll actually go, "Wait a minute, I don't
think so. I think this is just the start.
You might be right. That could be season 2's plot. He's realised, and
you could be right. I feel like, to me, this is still, he hasn't looked like he's learned anything yet. It still feels like he's so convinced he's in the right that I don't think I'll buy it if he's over it in one episode now.
Oh no, he won't be over it.
No, but even if he's no, he accepts that he's done stuff wrong, it would have to be, that would have to be pretty much what the whole episode is about for me to buy it at this point, because he's so ingrained in that he's right.
Well, it depends how they handle it. I feel like it just has to be big enough that he can actually look and go, "Oh shit, I did something wrong," even if he doesn't necessarily think he's been doing stuff wrong the whole time. But it just has to be
Okay.
one shocking thing that maybe would leave us for season 2, where he goes into it going, "I need to actually watch myself." He needs like kind of like how Bill was like getting stressed and it was like impacting on him, and he realized, and he seems to be taking steps now to make sure he's keeping himself at distance. He's like he's processing it. He's kind of trying to handle it in a healthy way as best he can. And maybe that'll be where we end the season with him, or maybe it won't be. I think if it's the opposite though, and if it isn't any type of like him realizing what he's becoming or what he's doing, I think then the ending's very opposite, and it'll be a case of the other people around him will actually be even more worried. Like we have to end in a kind of a dark place, which is a real downer of an ending. Given the end of this episode, though, I feel like it can't just be him. We can't just let him do what he wants next episode, because, or at least by the end of the episode, he's going to get in trouble, because at the end of the episode, Greg, despite the fact they've all agreed that they're not going to like mention the tape, they're going to just keep their mouth shut. Greg, the little shit, decides to mail the tape in.
Yeah, Greg is a right C word, isn't he?
He is. I was just because it was all done. It was fine. It was fixed, and we just get this little. I like the music that was playing actually when
it was nice. Yeah,
this nice little sort of 80s sounding kind of beat, and it's just him taking out the tape and putting it in this envelope, and I'm like, no, Greg, what are you doing? He's basically that. This if we're comparing this to Parks and Rec, he's the Jerry now. He's officially the Jerry.
I think he always was. Just from his name, like the Greg. He's got that to him, hasn't he?
In fact, on that joke, if you've seen Parks and Rec, I actually said out loud as I realised what he was doing, "Damn it, Greg!" And that's the new thing. I'm going to be saying "Damn it, Greg" every time Greg makes a big mistake. Like this.
Probably going to be a lot. Well, no, it won't be, because they'll fire him after this, surely.
Yeah,
they'll find a reason.
I don't see how he's going to keep this a secret. He's the one that did it.
No, because there's only what, 4 of them, 5 of them.
Yeah,
5 of them that could have done it.
And to go with Holden going too far and us kind of agreeing with that, the cat feeding storyline kind of mirrored that point, because she goes down, she feeds the cat again. She goes down to check the tin in the morning, and it's actually lots of bugs that have now infested the can. The cat's not eating it. It's just been lying there, and the bugs have all infested it. And she drops it in like fear, and it's just bugs are in the building now. And it's quite a clear message, I think. It's like, if you do it on their terms for too long, they will infect you. And it's really simple. It's a simple metaphor, but it works.
It does work, and it's one of those where I don't blame them for doing it simply because, why not?
Yeah, it's an effective enough point, because again, this cat thing's been it's been like a minute of screen time each for the last 3 episodes. It's not been like a big commitment,
but it's been strong enough that we've got what the point was already. Like before it even gets to the end of it, like we know what this is for. We know the purpose it's serving.
Yeah, and I like that it kind of worked last time, just to make the point that we have to do it on their terms. But now that we've gotten the next part of it, and then it relates to the rest of the episode, it's like, no, now it's saying...
It's like, here's what happens if you keep doing it on their terms.
Yeah, you have to keep your own humanity and keep your own sanity, essentially. Yeah. So, that's the lesson.
Yeah.
What we've not talked about is the new case. They get a new case. So this 12-year-old girl... is raped and murdered in a town somewhere. I can never remember the locations. They go all over the place. And basically, before they even go, they actually kind of give like Greg a chance to like test his skills. They kind of sit down with the crime photos and the details, and it was just after she got off the school bus. It was near her house. She seemed to be abducted, raped in a car, then killed. But she was dressed, and they bring up the fact that the clothing was like the buttons were misaligned, and this the kind of thing where, okay, so he let her get dressed again, and she done it in a rush, but then he decided to kill her. So it was the rape was planned, but the murder was not. And they kind of go into it, and Greg, to his credit, kind of like gets it in line. He sort of gets along the line of thought, and they build a sort of like profile as best they can at this point. But then of course Bill and Holden actually go out and look at the crime scene, talk to the officer. theorise a little bit more, talk about how this was a fantasy that she would even be interested in. They bring up the fact that her majorette uniform was that made her look a bit older, and that maybe let him justify it in his mind. But then after he did it, she was horrified, and that broke the fantasy. So the killing was kind of on the spur of the moment. It also implies it's his first time killing someone.
Yes, definitely.
So all these details. It was a really interesting little thing, even though we never even meet the killer, and I don't know if we will, because it seems like they've kind of sussed out.
Yeah, it seems like they know who it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually Bill who looks up and notices that the trees have all been cut because the power lines are running along next to them. He's like, they're fresh, because it's not that often they come and do this. So they've been here recently. So this is someone who's seen her get off the bus, while he's been working a couple of times.
And then they call around. It's like, oh, hey, town over, or whatever it was. It's like, they got a guy for raping some girl, and it's like, and he was part of the tree cutting company. It's like, well, that's probably your guy then.
Yeah, probably is. And I like the deduction though, like all the little details. It's one of my favorite things about this show is them kind of saying, oh well, this means it was his first time, and this means he didn't plan it, or he did plan it, or this means
Yeah.
Those are the fun elements of the cases, I think.
Yeah, I think this is the first time that I felt like the case. I was like, okay, whatever. It felt really ancillary because the main stuff was going on with Holden. And the case, it was over and done with. It wasn't anything super important. It was a fun little bit, but didn't add that much overall, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, I think the scene with Greg was well worth it, and I think, and they use it later on, Holden uses it as like ammunition later. He's like, oh, we just closed this case last week.
That's the thing. It's like I get it in the context of the overall narrative, but the case itself was much less interesting than normal.
Yeah, fair. I enjoyed it well enough. For it feels weird to say that given the details of it, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah.
As a case that took 3 seasons to do, from start to finish. Like, I thought it was a interesting enough case. Like, if they start doing like the exact same similar ones, like
Yeah.
And obviously, exact same similar is a stupid sentence, and forgive me for saying it. But sometimes your thought process leads you astray. So yeah, that was episode 9. We got one more left. We got the finale left.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to it. So what will Holden reap? Will he have a finale realization that he is maybe stepping over a line, or will he be just taking his first steps into a really dark and deep pit?
Will he get suspended?
Will he get suspended? Will Debbie realise that she might be dating a sociopath and should maybe hightail it? Will Bill punch Holden in the face?
All of these are possible.
Will the killer from the opening scenes finally strike? Will our characters be aware of this killer and be after him in the finale? You would expect so, given all the build-up, but we'll find out. So all that in the finale, which should be with you soon, or review that is. So thank you for watching. Let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. Have you got any vanilla?